Oh, it's right on the dot.
Yeah, okay.
So
So let's see how, let me refresh this one and see. Normally there's a bit of a lag on YouTube, about
okay,
like a 10-second lag that I normally that I noticed
okay,
the last time we did
it's
this.
up.
So is it on YouTube?
Yeah, a little
Okay.
bit behind.
Yeah. Okay, here we go.
All right,
Yeah. So mine was quite late. Okay, so we have seven
seven
people
watching. Wow.
on.
Okay,
Go ahead, and have you muted your video?
I did.
Okay, good. I'll go ahead and do the same with mine. So, hi guys. So we have Eve, Julian, Bryce, Mr.
Bryce,
Oz. Thank you guys for
Oswald,
coming and joining us.
everybody.
I
It's all my
really, really
favorite people.
appreciate it. I know. I know. So welcome guys.
Oh wait, here we go.
Well, this is the first live that I'm hosting on my channel. Just decided to call it Getting to Know Joe because you guys know how crazy I am about coffee. Being that Chad also is from Seattle and he's a heavy coffee drinker just like myself. So we said we're just going to kind of theme it around coffee. Everyone who's joining us can bring their cup of coffees or cup of joes or wine or whiskey, whatever it is you're drinking, and just join us for a really casual chat where we can just get to know a little bit more about Chad Bylsma with, is it Âge de Querelle or Age de Querelle? How do you say it?
Âge de Querelle.
Âge de Querelle.
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 I my French is awful.
Okay, so
But
it's French. Got it.
yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, it's pronounced Querelle. And I'm not even doing it quite right, but it's basically I try to say it's similar to Purell,
Yeah,
since
okay.
everybody's
Querelle,
sanitizing their
Querelle.
hands these days.
Oh yes, especially
Yeah.
nowadays. So
Yeah.
everyone, welcome Chad. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about your, no, before we start that, we said we're going to talk coffee talk. So what are you drinking tonight?
I got some it's a Peruvian. I like single origin coffees.
Okay.
It's from Peru. It's the brand is Tony's.
Mm-hmm.
They have some wonderful, especially their single origin. They've got some good blends as well, but it's a medium roast, just delicious. It's wonderful,
Awesome.
and I have it. I've got it in my. I decided to have a small cup because I'm ever since I hit I think about 35, 34 or 35. I if I have coffee after 3 p.m. I can't sleep.
Oh, that's it.
Um,
Okay.
yeah. um, so if I don't sleep tonight, my wife will be upset with you. Uh,
Oh, well,
just
I
kidding. I just
apologize
had
in
to say that
advance
because I saw.
because it's
No,
after 3. All right. Well, I am also just
definitely.
drinking a standard coffee. I believe it's a Colombian roast, a medium roast as well. My first time using my little pour over machine. If Kia's
I want to
there,
get one
I'm
of
doing
those.
this for you. It's actually really easy, but it takes some time. I was
Yeah,
surprised at how slow it was brewing, but it's really delicious.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, so let's see. How did you make your coffee today? I think you made like a
Uh, I have an
was it a,
AeroPress.
yeah, an
I don't have
AeroPress.
it.
I saw that.
Hold on just a second. I'm gonna go grab it.
Okay. Hi guys. I'm so happy to see you guys here. The best part of
Okay,
it, not Folgers.
so here it is.
Hi Tara. No, you're just in
So
time.
these are basically like for anybody who doesn't know, I equate them to being like a coffee syringe,
Hmm.
except they don't inject into you; they inject into the cup. But
Hi Deborah.
I like to, I do mine where I fill it from here,
Okay.
and then fill it with coffee, and then I let it sit for a little while. You get just a little more flavor that way.
Right.
Um, and yeah,
Yeah.
and I drink it with I've got some Silk soy creamer,
Ooh.
uh, and just a little bit of agave syrup.
Okay. Okay. See, I'm very basic. I like my coffee black. No cream, no sugar, nothing.
Sometimes I do that.
Yeah.
I'm I'm all over the place. Sometimes I like it cold. Sometimes I like it hot. Sometimes
Yeah.
for
Just
whatever reason,
depends.
I've been drinking hot coffee, even though it's summer. I don't know.
Same, 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 same. Okay, so let's move on. What are you wearing today? I think I know
Um,
what you're wearing today, but what are you wearing
yes,
today?
because it was partly inspired by you. Actually, it
Yeah,
was totally inspired by you. It's I always forget how it's pronounced.
it's a diptyque
Lombre,
one,
yeah, diptyque lombre. I don't
the
know how
something.
Dan's. Uh, Lou.
Uh-huh.
Uh, yeah, I've actually had this bottle for probably close to 10 years now. It was, I think, the first diptyque fragrance
Okay.
I got for myself. I was introduced to them by my wife.
Mhm.
Our first Christmas together, she wanted what is it, Vetivario?
Oh, I love that
The
one.
vetiver one, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that one's
So
beautiful.
I got her that. She got me a bottle of
That one.
Tower LDDM. So that
Oh,
was my
nice.
introduction to Tower as well.
Okay.
She's the reason why I got into perfume as much as I am.
Oh, that's really cool.
And she's coming to show off now.
Hi, how are you?
How are you?
Oh, she can't hear, can she?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's really good. So, yeah, so you're wearing that diptyque.
Yeah.
But let's go
What are you
ahead.
wearing today?
Oh, yes, duh. I'm actually
Yeah.
wearing one of your creations. I
Oh,
decided to go
nice.
with Blacklisted #1. I was out and about today when I was wearing Diptyque's Eau Dwell, but it's really hot here. So as soon as I got back home from running around town, I jumped in the shower and decided to wear Blacklisted #1, which um, is one of my favorites from the collection. I mean, a lot of them are
Nice.
my
Nice.
favorites, but I really do enjoy this. I love how
Nice.
smoky it is, and it's very
Yeah.
earthy, very rich. I really, really enjoy this one. So
Yeah,
yeah, just
that one was fun to make.
oh yeah,
Yeah, it was I think for about a week I had a sketched out formula that I was just like in my mind I was like, this is gonna be perfect.
hmm
And then I made it and I was like, this isn't it. And so I just decided to go. I went and laid in bed for about an hour and then just light bulb. I knew what I needed to do because what
yeah,
I had was way too sharp and I needed to smooth out the
okay,
rough edges. And so I came back and added a couple musks and I don't think I think the original formula did not have ethyl vanillin in it, and that's where the vanilla came from, and that smoothed it out, and then Castoreum, synthetic Castoreum,
hmm
um, uh, and so that's yeah. I have a lot of moments like that where
yeah.
I just kind of
I
hit this
think
block, and I was like, you know what, I got to walk away.
right, 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 right. I think with artistic things, sometimes you can have like formulas and all this stuff, but it may not be just right until you start, kind of
Yeah.
tweaking things and kind of doing things on the fly, and that's what makes it, one of a kind. So I
Hmm.
think that's a really cool thing. But go ahead and tell us a little bit about your brand, Âge de Querelle. I hope I said that right this time.
Um, well, so
Or a little bit about yourself, even.
to go there, I have to go back to the inspiration that got me to decide to try to figure out how perfumery is done. Like it was this abstract to me for the longest time. Like with the exception of Andy Tower, I never had a face to the person who created something. And then
Okay.
I was wearing Fat Electrician at work and I could not stop smelling myself. I kept catching whiffs of myself and was like, what smells so good? Oh my God, it's me. And I became obsessed with how do they do this? You know? And initially I was looking at, I finally started looking at who perfumers are, and they're all these long legacies of perfumers, Antoine Mesondu, who made Fat Electrician,
Mhm.
he's like a third or fourth generation perfumer.
Yeah.
um, he's entrenched. He's in what some refer to as the grass mafia, uh, and but it's still like I looked at his catalog of things that he's made, and turns out I owned like 8 of his creations, and I was like, I
Oh
love
wow.
this guy.
Yeah.
But so I started looking more and more into how it's done, and then it was pointed out to me by my wife that Andy Tower was self-taught.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I can do this. So I just, a lot of trial and error. And then I found out about Perfumer's Apprentice and got one of their uh, study kits.
Okay.
And that was kind of how it started. It was mostly just I was creating uh, just for fun and seeing what I could do. And then, so one of the ones in my collection, Severine,
Mm-hmm.
that's named after my wife because I made it for my wife.
Okay.
Um, so I kept making ones that I'd be like, "Oh, okay, smell this," and she'd go, "It's not bad, but I wouldn't wear it."
Okay. You're like,
And
thank you.
so I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna make something that you would wear,"
Right.
and that resulted in me creating Severine.
Okay.
Uh, and at the time, I was working at Amtrak, and I'd have layovers in Portland, and so I brought all my supplies with me to Portland into the hotel, and I
Yeah.
stayed up late blending stuff, and then I was like, this is it. And so I made that. I made her a bottle of it, and then we'd be out, and people like, what smells so good? And
Yeah.
they started telling me you need to sell this, and I did a little, just kind of cash in hand sales for a couple years,
Okay.
and then worked on building a brand. The brand, so the name, so I come from I come from the punk hardcore metal scene,
Right, right.
um, underground music, and so I kind of take a lot of that ethos with me of do it yourself and uh, stuff like that, and so that was already an inspiration and just music in general. But
Mhm.
as far as just how I do things, that was sort of my inspiration. And then I was mostly just joking around. Um, Actually, I was 100% joking around, not mostly. I was 100% joking around. I started putting the names of albums that I like into Google
Okay.
Translate.
Okay.
And so there's a record by the band, the Cro-Mags, called "The Age of Quarrel," and so I translated that and came up with "Âge de Querelle."
Okay.
And I asked my friends, we all kind of chuckled. Well, not all, but I kind of chuckled about it. And then everybody was like, "No, you should do that. You should do that. That sounds awesome." And then I was like, "Okay, screw it. That's
And
what
that
I'm
was
going
it.
with."
That's pretty awesome.
and,
I love how
and a
that
big thing.
that's
Oh, go ahead.
go ahead. No, I was just saying I love how, that your first fragrance, Severine, was such a personal project,
Mm-hmm.
making a fragrance for your wife. And you did even answer the first question that I had, which was, how did you come up with deciding on choosing that particular name? So
Oh, yeah,
yeah, that's really, really great.
yeah.
So I do have a question regarding being self-taught, because some of my favorite perfumers are self-taught perfumers.
Mm-hmm.
What was or what would you say was your best resource when you were learning? Was it more of a trial and error thing? Was it books? Like, what was your most important resource?
Initially, Perfumer's Apprentice, without a
Okay.
doubt. Um, their study kits are so useful, and it's not it's a starting point because they go off of you know creating formulas by the drop when really you should be going
Okay.
by weight,
Okay.
because two drops aren't going to be the exact same weight.
Right.
That's fine for creating stuff for yourself, but doing stuff on a commercial level, it's not necessarily. You're gonna have batch variations. Um, uh, but yeah, they were just such a valuable resource from the
Mhm.
beginning, and then from there, I and just really searching the internet. The Base Notes forum, it was useful, but you got to deal with some real
I can
uh,
imagine.
I'll say personalities.
I
Um,
can imagine. Yeah.
and then there was a Facebook group that I was in as well that I ended up getting kicked out of because I upset the overlord owner of the
Mm,
group. That's what he
okay.
called him. He called himself the
The
owner of the
owner of the
group.
group, of the Facebook group. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Like, no, Facebook owns it, but whatever. No, but that was because I didn't know that there was a rule about uh, no self promoting, and I just
Okay.
posted a quick little thing mentioning my brand,
Right.
and then it was actually a combination of things. Somebody decided to have some unpleasant remarks about me and what I was doing,
Hmm.
and long story short, I was able to find out his history and found out he had a pretty serious drug charge. And I just asked him, how much does that
Oh.
cost?
Oh, okay.
and then and that guy immediately blocked me, and then I was kicked out of the group.
Shade. What group is this, by the
Yeah.
way? Which Facebook group is
Um,
this?
it's called perfume making.
Okay, I don't know this one
Uh,
then. Okay,
it's
that's really interesting.
yeah, the there's some really great people in the group, but the head, the leader, is a he's a big personality.
Yeah, it's
Um,
okay.
yeah,
It is okay.
that
We're that was the
it was still a
past.
good resource.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's really good. I don't
Yeah,
know if you're
and then
aware, but
oh,
one of my favorite perfumers is Francesca Bianchi, and I remember her
mhm,
saying, how she was self-taught, and for her, her best resources were books. She just read, trial and
mhm,
error. I know we have Mr. Oz here, who's also a perfumer. Um,
yes,
I'm not sure if Mr. Oz is self-taught, but I think it's really interesting just to see how
I believe he
um,
is. Yes,
different people can, learn in different ways. I mean, I guess we're in 2020 now where resources are basically endless,
hmm,
but, some people take things differently. Like you would
right.
say, those forums were your best resources, whereas Francesca mentioned books. So,
I also had books.
well, yeah,
This one,
okay.
this one
Yeah,
is great. If you haven't read Mandy Aftel, Essence and Alchemy, it's just a good book.
okay.
It's not necessarily something to learn perfumery from,
Hmm.
but it's a great source of learning about the history of perfumery.
Right.
And
Okay.
I mean, I've got I couldn't even show you the entire stack of books that I have,
Right.
but a lot
Okay.
of them I didn't start getting into until later on. Like this one, this
Okay.
is an actual textbook. It's out of print right now. Apparently, people are selling this on Amazon for over $1,000. Um, they
Okay.
have an they have an amazing Facebook page though. That's a wealth of information.
Okay.
But if you just wanted to learn about the history of the chemistry of perfumery, it's a textbook, so it's got a very academic feel to it.
Hmm.
But because it's a subject that I'm really into,
Right.
it's a breeze for me. So,
Okay. That's really cool. Well, you guys, if you have any questions, feel free to comment them and we'll get to them at some
ooh,
point tonight.
oh,
Let me see. I have more questions. I played around with your discovery set, as you saw. If you guys missed it, I
mhm.
will link it down below for those who are watching it later. My first impressions on the entire collection, actually. So I kind of sensed like a style of classic perfumery with like a cool hip twist, right? So what would you say your style of perfumery is?
It's hard for me to I'm very inspired by the classics. Um, but I like to put a modern twist on it. So,
Right. Okay.
like with Eau de Cologne, that one was
I love that one, by the
I
way.
was making I literally just made that so I wanted to make my own aftershave,
Mhm.
And then the first time I used it, I was like, wait a minute, I need to wear this. And so that one actually started with I built around a formula that is in this book, which was originally published in the late 1800s.
Oh, wow.
So that's Perfumery and the Kindred Arts. But this has the very first, the original eau de cologne formula in it also. But so I built around that and then added some modern touches like ambroxan uh, and just a few modern aroma chemicals, dihydromercenol, things that gave it this modern kick. And so it has that, that classic, I'm not big on gendering fragrances, but it has like that
Yeah.
classic masculine smell,
Yeah,
like a
I
men's
totally get that.
cologne.
Hmm.
But with this modern feel, and it's anybody can wear it. It's my mom's favorite.
Yeah.
uh,
No, the eau de cologne is actually my favorite in your collection for something that I can wear every day. I don't even have
yeah.
to think about it. Any season, any occasion, I feel like I
Hmm.
can pull out eau de cologne and I'm set. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. I like that type of like barbershoppy
Hmm.
fragrances, and I think it's really, really nice. I really like it.
Yeah, and that's also like I think part of that for me with creating that comes from like my earliest experience with a fragrance that I can really clearly recall was my best friend who lived up the street from me had the original Polo in the green bottle.
Hmm.
And when I smelled that, that was, I think I was in like fourth or fifth grade at the time. I was like, this is class. This is
Yeah.
sophistication. This is maturity.
14-year-old Chad.
Yeah, I was like, this is just everything. And I not too long ago actually bought some early 80s vintage bottles of that. But that's kind of what my initial inspiration comes from, is those classic, really herbaceous and spicy men's scents, barbershop
Mhm.
scents, fougères, stuff like that. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Havenly Scent has a question here. He says, describe how, let me see if I can put this. Oh, I can show it on the thing. Oh, look at
Oh,
that.
look at that.
Oh,
Describe how
wow.
you get the signature sharp smell. The signature sharp smell. That's how
Is it
do
a
I?
secret?
Well, no. It's just that there's some common. There's typically going to be there's a handful of aroma
I
chemicals
know.
or even just natural ingredients that give that sharpness. Whether it's uh, I tend to use ethyl linalool instead of just regular linalool, which is something that's in high concentration in stuff like lavender
Hmm.
and rosewood. Um, there's that dihydromercenol, which is kind of like a lavender bergamot kind of smell. That's in everything, like
Yeah.
especially in men's fragrances. That's in everything. Creed uses it literally in everything. Uh, I have the documentation to prove it. Don't
Okay.
don't 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 believe the all natural line.
Mm.
Uh, but so there's that. There's an aldehyde that's just shortened to people just refer to it as Padma because it's uh, phenylaldehyd. I don't know. I couldn't even tell you the full
Yeah,
name of
it's
it. So
okay.
we've just shortened it to Padma. But I use that in a lot of. I think that might be in just about everything I've made, because it gives this lift.
Okay.
It's a in a heavy dose, it would be like this really sharp rose smell, but in just a tiny, like less than 1% of the formula, it gives this sparkle.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, that might be
Oh, so
what you're
that's what it
referring
is.
to. That
Okay.
that
Okay.
or ethyl linalool.
All right. Here we have another question here by from Julian. It says, "What made you decide on your label? I love your logo. I like your shirt as well. I know you just picked those up today. I think it's really awesome, but I really do like your logo. So I know it has like the ADQ on
Yes.
it.
Let me
But
see.
tell us a little bit about, do we have, well, yeah,
Here,
there you go.
I'll do
Can you
that.
tell
Oh,
us a little
wait.
bit about that? I think you mentioned it once on one of your Facebook Lives
Yeah.
a while
So
back, but for those who weren't able to join that.
the band whose name or whose album inspired the name for my brand,
Hmm.
they were Hare Krishnas. Several of the members still are, and so those themes were in a lot of their albums. In fact, the name uh, "The Age of Quarrel" is the English translation of the Kali Yuga. Um,
Okay.
but that's the Kali. There is a reference to uh, a a demon god named Kali, not the goddess Kali, who was Shiva's consort. Um, but because of that, there is references to Kali, the goddess, in their stuff as well. My friend, who's a graphic designer, who did this design for me, this was one of the designs that he sent me, and so it's the goddess Kali. It's her mouth with her
Okay.
sword crossed behind her, and I took one look at it and was like, that's it, that's the
Yeah,
one. I
that's
wish he was still doing my graphic design work, but he's moved on to bigger and better things.
oh.
He works for Diplo.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
he just
fancy.
yeah he just was like, hey, I'm moving to LA, got a job with
Mhm.
Diplo.
Well, that's pretty cool. Well, at least he left you with something really great. So,
Yeah, I really appreciate him. His name's
yeah.
Jackson Green, by the way. Really great
Okay.
guy.
Nice. That's really cool. Um, let's see. Do you have any other questions? If not, I have a whole list. But yeah, people are really enjoying your shirt design. I think it's really cool. I really do like it. Um,
That's another one that's an inspiration from hardcore punk.
okay.
I believe I told you that in a message the other day.
Yes.
Um, but it's so there's a band called Minor Threat. They were the first straight edge band. That means don't drink, don't smoke, don't do drugs,
Hmm.
uh, and which is a belief that I follow. But so they had a song called "Bottled Violence," which is, you can kind of guess, it's
What
about
it's about, right?
alcohol and violence. And the logo, yeah, the logo for the single was this, but it was a bottle of beer in a punk
I
jacket,
see.
holding a bottle of beer with another beer in his pocket. And so I asked a friend if he could, because one thing that's big in punk is to we call them rips. You take you take somebody else's design and make it your own.
Hmm.
And it's just kind of it's a tradition in DIY music. There's
Hmm. Okay.
even in electronic music, I've seen electronic DJs and stuff use underground punk
Right.
designs as their logo. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but so yeah, that's what I did with this. I asked him if he could turn my perfume bottle into that logo,
Yeah.
and instead of holding a beer in his hand, he's holding one
So
of my bottles
close.
of perfume as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have another question for you. Um, so we know you originally had the first three fragrances, which are Eau de Cologne, Night Tide, and Severine. I was saying Severin, but I know
Oh
now that
yeah.
it's Severine.
Yeah.
um, so those were your staple, those were your classics.
Yeah.
So what inspired you to create the Blacklisted collection?
It. You know, I had a few formulas that I'd been sitting on that the cost to make them was a little more than I wanted to start with. That was kind of the beginning of it.
Hmm.
And then the three that I ended up settling on, I kind of they were richer. There's a richness to them that's not in the others.
Right.
And I yeah, I with the blacklisted, I was kind of just trying to the name came from, so that's just that's another punk hardcore reference. There was an album by a old school New York hardcore band that was called, it was the Blacklisted demo. And then there's a band called Blacklisted, and there's just like probably a million songs called Blacklisted, and I was just like, yeah, I like the way that sounds, and it just kind of fits me. You know, throwing something like Blacklisted onto a perfume brand or line seems almost counterintuitive. But that's just me, you know.
Yeah,
and,
right.
But as far as the perfumes themselves, those were, you know, each one was kind of had its own inspiration. Blacklisted 3, I actually. That's right.
Yep.
Oh, Bryce. Number 1 is, yep, it's named after Bryce. You got it. You know, he's actually the reason why Hurricane Laura missed Shreveport. Yeah, it knew he was there. It backed off. But no. So as I was telling you before we started this, Blacklisted 1, that was I had a formula that I, you know, it was in my head. This is what I'm going to do. I got this. And then I actually blended it and was like, something's off.
Yeah.
You know, I just knew that this was the way it was going to go, but there was just something off. And, you know, then I sat back for about an hour and then realized, okay, here's what I need to add to this. And I added those things, and it was exactly how I envisioned it from the beginning. And Blacklisted 2, that one was one of the very first formulas that I made.
Okay. Before the classics.
Yeah, and well, so I had this formula. It was really simple. It was like 8 ingredients. It was mostly vetiver, and you know, it was one that a lot of my friends were like, you know, I'd be like, oh, do you want to buy one of my creations? They're like, I love that one.
Yeah.
But I always felt like it wasn't finished.
Okay.
And so a few months ago, I came back to it, and you know, I mean, I started that one like 5 years ago originally, and so what I've learned since then, I was like, okay, I can give this a greater texture and nuance, and you know, I've got so many more ingredients to my at my disposal now that I know how to use.
Right.
You know, because there's some that you don't mix with others, and because it just doesn't go good. But so I revisited it and ended up with that one, and I just, the first day I tried it on, I was like, this is it. It's the first one where I just had absolute 100% confidence that I did good. I am constantly self-doubting. And that was the first time that I was just like, you did it.
Yeah, like this is it.
And then Blacklisted 3 I actually originally made, I think about 2 years ago.
Okay.
And I was actually working on I was making perfumes for a friend, because he was starting a clothing line that got put on the back burner for some other projects. But that was one of the samples that I sent him originally. It didn't make the cut because I think it was just a little too intense. That one's a better example of what my personal taste is out of all of them.
Okay.
I love patchouli. I love green. I love, you know, galbanum. That one is just, that is me right there.
Right. Okay. Yeah. For me, number 3 was my least favorite.
Right.
Because I personally, you know, we're all going through our fragrance journeys. And for me, green fragrances are something that I'm just now getting into. So number 3 is really intense. So for those who love like really intense, earthy green scents, Number three will be your jam. I remember, I don't think he's here because he's in the UK and the time difference is crazy. But John from the John Snow or Scented Snowdrops, he said number three sounds like it's made for him. Like he would love that one.
Yeah.
Although in the first impressions, I said it wasn't my favorite, but still, Heath was like, yeah, I think I would like this one.
Yeah.
So I have a good
go
ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, and that one I also, from the time that I originally made, from the first formula I made until what I ended up finishing on, what you received a sample of and what's available right now, I changed it from just having one type of petit grain, and it's got a different type of galbanum in it, and then also I was using it was like a rosewood blend. Basically, it was like reconstituted rosewood because rosewood is endangered, and so what I ended up finding was this brand, essential oil brand called J Steel. They have it's an oil made from rosewood leaves, which is a sustainable way because you're not cutting down the whole tree.
Right.
You're not killing the tree to get the oil, and it's a sharper rosewood, and so that just really gave the whole thing a different experience for me. And I have originally I just had petit grain from Paraguay, and now it has that. It has so petit grain is the wood from citrus trees.
Okay. Yeah.
Like the stem, and so it's like citrusy but woody. So I have that from bergamot, lime, and bitter orange on top of that. So it just gave it this better this nuance that I didn't even think was possible. So
that's really cool. I have a question from Mr. Oz. Let me pull it up on the screen. It says, how do you know a formula is ready / finished? That's a great question.
That's actually that I got like 4 different answers for that, because there's when I'm happy with what I did, and part of that is also when I've actually looked at, is this compliant with IFRA, IFRA regulation, not regulations, but recommendations. Even though I don't sell internationally, I still try to keep it on there. But but basically, if it smells right to me, if I feel like I did it, but there's also, I have my test of, so I let the oil sit for a week, then I mix it with alcohol, and then I wear it, and my on skin test I do for about a week, and I try to experience it in different scenarios of just a chill day, a busy sweaty day, stuff like that, and just want to see how it's going to last in different scenarios, and also just see how it dries down on my skin. But ultimately, I'm the final test subject on it.
Yeah.
And then there's also I'm constantly, as I'm mixing the oils, if I'm like questioning myself, I'll ask my wife. I'll be like, hey, what do you think? And she hates like classic masculine fragrances, but I love them. And so sometimes she'll be like, it smells like man. And I'm like, okay. But there was also Night Tide. I was trying to make something completely different. That one's, I'm not even ashamed to say it. It was a mistake.
Okay.
But I asked my wife, I was like, what do I need to change about this? And she looked at me like I was crazy and said, you need to sell that.
Wow.
Don't change that at all. And it's actually been one of my more popular ones.
I think Night Tide personally is great. I think my sample is actually almost finished.
Oh, wow.
It's the most, well, I'm an oversprayer anyway, but I have just a little bit left here, and I'm just gonna savor it. I think it's the
Yeah.
most unique
Yeah.
in the collection. I am not one to really, lean towards fragrances that are heavy in aldehydes.
Yeah.
It's always been that way for me.
Yeah.
Usually, if it has a little bit, I can deal, but this one to me is predominantly aldehydes. But
Yeah.
I really like the way that it's formulated. And for me, I feel okay wearing it. I
Hmm.
have my 16-year-old sister who, like, I have her smell everything. I'm like, hey, you smell this. What do you think? What does it remind you of? And
Hmm.
she told me that she doesn't like it, which is fair. She's 16. But she did say it smells like the ocean. And I
Mm.
think you really nailed it. For someone who's not even into fragrances to be able to get that feeling, I thought
Right.
it was
Yeah.
well done. Very well done.
Yeah. Yeah. It actually took me, I'd say, about a year till I actually started to like it.
Oh wow.
I didn't like it. Uh, but my wife was like, no, that's good. Don't follow your instinct. Sell that. So she's got a
Yeah.
royalty check coming her way. Um, but no, I've actually been wearing it myself recently, and I really love it. That's something that's kind of important to me is liking my own creation. I don't. I'm my first customer, really.
Right. Yeah.
Uh, because I have a pretty broad uh, what do you call it? I like a lot of different scents.
Yeah.
And so when I make something that I'm like, yeah, this is good, uh, it makes me happy. Now if somebody else is like, hell yeah, I want that, I'm like, you're crazy. Okay.
That's what they want. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I tend to listen to my wife.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing as
Yeah,
our image.
we have pretty good communication skills.
Yeah.
We're yeah, we're good.
That's good. It's good to have someone like that on your side to kind of push
Yeah,
you. Like you were doubting nighttime, but she's like, no, do it. And I
yeah,
mean, I'm sure I'm not the only one who likes, as you said, many people do like it's one of your more popular ones. And
yeah. And I
if
like
you
it
had,
now.
yeah, you ended up liking it. You grew to love it.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, that's really cool. Um, like, okay, guys, if you have any questions, put them down below. I have, let's see, you mentioned earlier about you getting your petitgrain from, or you said something about the leaves from roses instead of the actual
Rosewood.
rosewood.
Yeah.
So you obviously care about being sustainable. I know you're a vegan
Yes.
brand, cruelty free.
Yeah.
So how important is that to you? And you are a consumer as well. And do you also keep those things in mind when you're purchasing fragrances from other brands, whether it's, cruelty free, vegan, sustainable, any of
Yeah. I tend to. There have been times where I smell something and I'm just like, I don't care. I'm getting this.
that?
It's just so good. I'm like, I'll say a prayer for it. Uh,
Yeah.
because I'm a Buddhist, and so that influences a lot about what I do, and
Mhm.
uh, and so it really is a big part of who I am and the decisions I make. I don't use, as I mentioned before, with I think this was before we went live. The Castoreum in Blacklisted one. Oh, you disappeared. Oh, there you are. Okay, your screen went
Oh,
black for a second.
oh, okay. I hope you
Can you hear
guys
me?
can see me. I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, okay, okay. You're back. All right.
Okay.
That scared me. Um, but no, so there's a Castoreum note in Blacklisted one, but it's not real Castoreum. It's a synthetic made by IFF,
Hmm.
um, International Fragrance and what was it, International Fragrance and Flavors, or Flavors and Fragrances, one of those two. Um, That's who Dominic Ropion works for.
Okay.
But it's called Castoreum Olfac, and it's a really great. Um,
Like a
now
substitute.
I have purchased, yeah, I've purchased natural animal based musks for the sake of studying, because I want to be able to recreate that smell. I hate having them, but it's
Hmm.
important for me as a perfumer to try
Right.
to understand what I'm doing. And so the Castoreum olefac is a very close recreation of natural castoreum,
Okay.
and that's what I prefer to use. That's important for a leather accord, and it's used in many vanilla accords as well.
Hmm.
Um, and I tend to avoid using ingredients that are endangered plants,
Okay.
or like if if I found out that you know this ingredient that's in one of my popular perfumes is being made by pretty much slave labor, I'm going
Then
to stop
you'll
doing that.
right, right, right. Just ethical.
I'll find, yeah. And I try to do my best. There's some things that are just unknowable. And I like, that's what I wanted to go back to. One thing is I don't like using, just because of what major companies have turned cruelty free into.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
A lot, it's a term that's used by people that they still exploit human labor, in a really disgusting way. And so it's not truly cruelty
Cruelty
free,
free.
because
Right.
yeah, you're being nice to animals, but what about people too? I try to have compassion for all living beings, and
Hmm.
that's just something that's really important to me
Yeah.
as a one, just as I've kind of been that way for a long time. Even since I was a kid, I thought
Yeah.
being mean to animals or people was horrible.
Right.
But then as a Buddhist, it kind of helped me uh, understand it a little bit more.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's really important to me, and I really appreciate what oh my god, I'm having a brain fart. Christoph, uh, what's his last name? Zoo New York. He
Oh, yes, yes. He did
I'm
a
totally
live the other
I'm
day with
I,
I don't remember his last name either.
yeah. I feel so bad because I did a live chat with him,
Okay.
and a group of people. Oswald was there too.
Right.
Um, and But he created the perfumery.
Laudanile.
There you
Laudanile?
go. There you
Laudanile.
go.
Thanks, Eve.
Yeah. I was like L. Oh my god. But he created the perfumery code of ethics, and I think it's just and watching interviews with him and being in this group discussion with him. I just respect the hell out of that guy. Like he was talking about, for a while he wouldn't use Indian sandalwood because it was
Mhm.
nearly extinct.
Right. Yeah.
They've now been able to, it's now there's a sustainable way to get the same sandalwood oil,
Yeah.
without killing the plant. And that's one of the things with oud. I would love to create a really nice, fancy as hell oud fragrance that's just oozing in it, but to get it from a truly ethical source like Ensar Oud or something like that, it's expensive. That stuff
Yeah,
is.
for sure.
I bought 3 grams of Cambodian oud from him for
Hmm.
$200,
Oh,
and whew, that it was divine, absolutely
I'm sure it
divine.
was. I'm sure it was
But I won't be making a fragrance quite like
with
that
that.
for
Yeah.
some time.
Okay. I have a question from Ollie's mom. She's like, well, she says, for those who have no clue about the brand, where can we make the purchase? If so, what's the safest blind buy one? I will link I probably should have linked it earlier, but I will link um, his website in the description bar, and I will message you as well.
Thank you.
because we talk all the time, always mom. But I wouldn't recommend blind buying any fragrance.
I
I
agree.
think the best bet is to get a sample set. If you think that the classics are more your speed, you can get the sample set of just the classics, or if you think the Blacklisted is kind of more your style, then you can get a sample set of the Blacklisted collection, or you can get the full collection. But definitely, I wouldn't recommend blind
Yeah.
buying. Sample sets
Yeah,
the way.
I really I always advocate getting samples as much as I hate making the sample bottles.
I'm sure they're time
Because that
consuming.
putting those atomizers onto those vials is I have a bunch of rings in my desk from pressing them down.
Oh,
It is obnoxious, but I still tell people, I don't want you to get something that you don't like.
right.
So just get samples and find the one that suits you. And if people want to blind buy, if they're feeling
Froggy.
adventurous, yeah, do it. You
Yep.
know, I mean, Bryce bought eau de cologne on a blind buy and absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
And he's been one of my best
Yeah.
customers.
Bryce is a chronic blind buyer though. He's very brave.
Maybe not the best example for somebody. I personally like to be uh, restrained as much as possible, which is why boutiques and stuff that sell perfume are dangerous for me because, oh my God, I just smelled 20 things I like. I need to buy all 20.
Right. I can totally relate for sure. We have a question from Tara. She's curious to know how much more difficult and expensive it is to find those ethically sourced ingredients you were talking about. I think you mentioned um, a little bit about that
You
earlier.
know, it's a lot of the wholesalers that I buy through, like Perfumer's Apprentice and stuff like that. They will, I mean, like, so I've actually got the oil sitting right next to me. It says, I just happened to be looking on their site and
Mhm.
I saw that, and they said specifically that this is better for the environment than natural rosewood oil,
Okay.
and it's a little bit different than getting it directly from the wood, but it's better for it's we have all these things, all these plants and animals that are going extinct because of our greed. Uh, I'd rather you know, I'd rather go this route. But a lot of the
Yeah.
places will tell you, and then there's the message boards and stuff like that. You can find the better sources for that. That better way to go.
Mhm.
So,
But they tend to be more expensive. I know that's
oh,
something I've
absolutely.
been wondering. Yeah.
Well, I shouldn't say absolutely. Sometimes it depends on the material. So like uh, oud,
Yeah.
getting ethically sourced oud, uh, yes, big time.
Okay.
And also, if you're paying cheaper, it's when you're getting into the unethical people, you're also looking at uh, probably more shady business,
Mm,
and so that there's less of a likelihood of them using uh, authentic ingredients. There's probably going to be some filler in there
right.
because
Right.
they're
Yeah.
just trying to turn a profit. They don't give
Exactly.
a crap about anybody. Um, as far as like with the rosewood oil, the leaf, rosewood leaf oil, it's actually less expensive than getting real rosewood oil because, like I
Mm,
said, the rosewood plant, the tree is it's endangered,
yeah.
and so to acquire the real deal is it's expensive.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
getting the leaf, which you can produce a lot more
It's
for
much
a
more.
lot less,
Yeah.
um, it ends up not costing as much. Now this costs more than the uh, oh God, what is it even called? But it's a reconstituted blend that recreates the smell of rosewood oil. This definitely costs more, but
Mhm.
it's worth it, and it's
Yeah,
it's in my
sustainable.
yeah, and it's in my collection that costs a little bit more, so I'm not eating the profit on
Right,
that one.
right. Okay.
So, yeah, but there's
Um,
other ingredients that I mean, that's just one of the things of if I wanted to get like a good sandalwood smell, there's some really great. I mean, people dog on chemicals all the time, but there's some amazing aroma chemicals for replacing you name it,
yeah,
and they smell like the real deal, and you get a consistency out of that as well, and you don't have nearly as many allergens in there. Natural stuff is loaded with stuff that's toxic to
yeah,
humans.
absolutely. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so that those are just some of the things you have to think about, and it's one of those things too that with being vegan as long as I've been, I used to spend 2 hours at the grocery store to get what now takes me 20 minutes because
Yeah,
I'm reading the ingredients. Now I just know what to grab.
right.
So that it just kind of becomes, it's ingrained in my mind to do that kind of searching. So and as far as the price, like I said, I think it's worth it to go for things to cost more if you're going a
If
more
you're doing
ethical
it
route.
ethical, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I would have to
I mean,
agree with you on that as well.
and it's like if you're going to spend more for shoes that were made in a union shop, where
Yeah,
people got fair wages and were treated right, you're going to pay more,
right.
and you know there's a lot that comes with that too, rather than being made in a sweatshop. Uh,
Absolutely.
so you know, like I said, it's just it's something that I don't really think that much about. So,
Hmm.
okay, Mr. Oz has one. What would be your
Yes.
advice for someone interested in starting their brand? Ooh, what it takes to end to bringing a phrase to market.
Oof.
Sorry, I'm giggling about this one because I am not a good role model on this one. I have been winging it this whole time. My advice though is learn, study, study, study. You know, figure out what your best method of learning is. For me, it's hands-on, trial and error. Um, I could read 100 books about how to install a light bulb. Until I've installed a light bulb, I don't know how that works.
Right.
And it's
Yeah.
the same thing with making perfume. Is I was reading and reading and reading, and I'm just like, what the hell does any of that mean? And it wasn't until I just got in and learned. Now, there's some people who could just read something and then boom, do it. If that's how you work, do it that way. Um, but really study, and then blend, blend, blend. Um, Make sure you have a product figured out. I was fortunate to. I mean, with Severine, I like that was like the 20th blend that I had made
Okay.
somewhere in that
Yeah.
area. I don't know exactly, but I mean, I hear from a lot of professional perfumers that are like they threw out 100 before they got one that was good enough.
Wow. Yeah.
I got lucky, um, and but so then I had people being like, I want to buy this from you. You should sell
Yeah.
this. So, and as far as the business side of things, I'm still figuring it out. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
But with creating your brand, create something. If you're gonna do an independent brand, make it something that is about you, something that is inspired by your world. For me, it's hardcore, it's punk, it's straight edge, it's loud music
Yeah.
and giving a middle finger to the man. and
Yeah.
and Buddhism. But
Yeah. Just
but it's
everything about you just wrapped up into one little.
yeah, and that's really what it's about for me. And
Mhm.
and so that's kind of where I come from with it as far as your brand should have a personal identity, and figure out what that is, and how whichever direction you decide to go after that,
Yeah.
um, that's the whole thing's a journey. I mean, I literally I come from a blue collar background. God, tongue twister. Um, and I was a railroad mechanic for almost 15 years and a car mechanic before that, and I just happened to get into I just decided I wanted to figure this out. So
Yeah.
everything I've been doing since I started doing this, I have been winging it.
Story of my
And
life, winging
yeah,
everything. Yeah.
and then but some other important stuff is to, uh get a business account, have an accountant.
Hmm.
Accountants end up totally being worth paying for.
Okay.
They will get you back more money than you pay them by a lot.
Yeah.
Um, accountant, take advantage of Small Business Association or Administration, SBA. Take
Hmm.
advantage of their free programs. That and then also find your local SBA, and then if there's a big credit union in your area, like where I live, we have Boeing Employees Credit Union. They love working with small businesses. Um, I got a lot of resources out of them. Uh, you know, it just figure it out.
Yeah.
But don't forget to get a business license, because if the city or state that you're living in finds out that you're conducting business and not paying taxes, you're in trouble. Uh, and then also, if you end up becoming a certain size, and you're buying a certain amount of alcohol to use in your perfume, you have to have a license from the federal government, the TTB. Um, that can take a long time. It actually took me about 5 months for mine to finally process, and I'm sitting there like about to reach my annual limit of denatured alcohol that I can legally purchase in a year, and I'm like, I need more. Oh my god! And then oh my god, okay,
Finally.
I printed that out and was like, I can do this. But yeah, get your permits in order. But as far as like you know building your brand, create something that's about you, because I've never been one to try to please other people. If somebody doesn't like me, then that's their problem.
Mhm.
um, Even though honestly in my head I'm like, why don't they like me? But ultimately I make things that are about me, for me, and make it about you. There's a Oscar Wilde quote, be yourself because everyone else is already taken, or something like that.
Yeah.
I have a magnet on my refrigerator that has the quote on it, but I
No.
can't see it. I can't see it right now. But it's that should go for a personal business too. Be
Yeah, I think
be be you, because
for sure.
you're the only you there is, and that's huge.
Yeah.
And creating something that's about you is like, what a beautiful thing to offer to the world. You know,
Right.
that's just, and I think that's just part of art too. Is you're letting people see you bleed. You know,
Right. Right. I mean, in a
so
way, yeah, that's
yeah.
correct. We are a little bit over an hour right now, so let's
Okay.
try and take a few questions and then we can wrap it up. I hope you're okay with time. Do you have time
Oh,
to chill out for a
I
little bit? Okay,
absolutely. Yeah,
awesome.
I'm not.
I see a really great question from Da Vinci's Alchemist. It says, have you spoken much to other local perfumers to kind of pick their brains during your self-teaching, or do you find them to be private about their work?
I have. Oh my goodness, I'm spacing on his name right now. There's a local brand called Filigree and Shadow, in
Okay.
Seattle. I I more approached him about business stuff,
Okay.
because he seemed to be, you know, he seemed to have that figured out. Um, and he was really open, and even, I mean, by the time I actually got to him, got to asking him stuff, I was more trying to figure out the business side of things. And
Mhm.
as far as I actually didn't know any local perfumers when I was first learning, and then when I did find out who was around, I was afraid to ask. I'm actually, I don't know if this comes out in our conversation, but I'm actually a really shy person.
Okay.
Um, part I you may have noticed me looking away from the camera a bit. That's just me being really I'm an introverted social butterfly.
Okay.
Uh, but no, I'm yeah, when I started finding out about who these people were locally, because in Seattle we got Blackbird, House of Matriarch, and
Yeah.
Filigree and Shadow. Um, Filigree and Shadow is the only one that I've actually talked to, and that's an fully independent business.
Hmm.
Um, but when I found out about the other people, like all these people I know that know them were like, you should talk to them, you should talk to them, you should talk to them, and I was like, oh no, they're just gonna find me annoying.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
probably would have been awesome about it. Um,
I'm
because
sure they would have because they were
oh
there
yeah,
at one point.
yeah, and there's a lot of I mean, there was some times early on where I reached out to Andy Tower for
Oh
some
wow.
advice,
Yeah.
and he is so nice.
Oh, that's
He
so
just
cool.
he just was. I mean, I don't recommend people just start bombarding him with questions. He's actually, because at one point people did start bombarding him with stuff.
Mm.
He actually created a workbook
Okay.
for making a perfume business. I've
Oh
been
wow.
meaning to ask him about that. But he's super nice, and is just you know totally willing to help people out. And as a result, he decided to make this thing to be
Right.
like,
That's really cool.
here, just 20
Here's
bucks,
all
and
you
or I
need.
don't yeah, here's what you need to know.
Yeah.
I already answered all your questions 1,000 times, so I
Right.
printed them. And and
Yeah.
but yeah, there's some perfumers who are just completely just,
Mm. Just
yeah,
not wanting
that
to
that
share.
yeah.
Yeah. I get
I don't want to be too mean,
it. Yeah.
even though they were. um, but but there's a lot who are just, they're really really nice people.
Yeah.
And it's funny that you can find somebody who's been doing this for decades and has a brand that almost nobody's heard of,
Hmm.
and they're just a total prima donna.
Yeah.
And then you have somebody like Andy Tower,
Andy
who
Tower.
is known the world over, fully independent, self-taught, and he's just a teddy bear,
Yeah. That's really, I mean, you come across different kinds of people
Yeah,
throughout your lifetime. So it's
yeah,
not
yeah,
surprising. It's unfortunate, but not
yeah,
surprising.
yeah.
I just realized I skipped a question from We Are
Oh,
Sentient. It's also a question that I had that I wanted to ask. I know as of now you're not shipping outside of the US, but
correct.
are you planning to maybe source out a stockist or maybe possibly ship
Oh,
your own things to Europe and the
I
UK?
I've been trying to figure out how to, because right now, I've made one international order, and it was
Hmm.
to Vancouver, British Columbia. That's a few hours from me.
Yeah, just right
It's
up.
it's
Yeah.
a jump over the border, and it cost me $60 to ship
Oof.
to them,
Wow.
and their shipping was $30.
Oh, so
Um,
you, yeah.
so yeah, and so international shipping can be a bit of a. I've been trying to figure out a distributor to go through.
Mhm.
See, like I said before, I'm winging this.
Yeah.
One thing I've suggested to a few people is if you have a trusted person in the States, have them order it for you, and then shipping it as a gift is way cheaper because there's not a commercial duty charge.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it's the duty tax that really gets you.
Mhm.
Um, so for now, that's what I'm recommending people do if that's an option for you. For example, a friend of mine in Seattle has a niece in Germany,
Mhm.
and she bought a Explorer set for her niece, and so I shipped it to her, and then
And
she's
then
going to ship it to her
okay,
niece,
I see.
and it'll cost her way less than me doing it.
Right.
But I'm still trying to figure out a distributor who can handle that international shipping for me. I know that they're out there. I think you said stockist. Is
Yeah.
that what you said? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to look into that. I just learned something new.
I hope
uh,
I'm saying it right too, but I know some brands
I,
will have
I'm
like
sure I'll figure it
stockist.
out.
Yeah, that will
Yeah.
just like they
I'm,
ship
I'm,
them
I'm sure I'll be able to figure it out with that.
yeah, yeah, it'll be fine. You'll manage, but
Yeah.
as long as
Yeah.
there are plans for you to kind of expand, because I know there's lots of people all over the world who, in Fracom who are interested in trying more indie brands as well. But of course,
Yeah.
even for myself, when I was in Scotland, I really, really wanted to
Right.
try your fragrances out, but the shipping, of course, didn't make that possible. But yeah, we are sentient. I'm
Yeah.
sure
And that
you would
was,
like to,
that was when,
but
oh,
yeah, I'm
yeah,
just saying, like, I'm
I've
sure
had a few people
there must be a
in
lag.
Europe.
Is there a
We're getting
lag?
a
I think
little bit of a
there's a
lag.
lag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Oh
Go ahead.
no. I hope it's not. Okay. Anyways, no, I when Oswald was doing his live with Mr. Cologne, he talked about not shipping internationally at the moment because of that. Like, just it's a prohibitive cost to the independent perfumer. But I'm gonna have to maybe reach out to him, see if maybe we can collectively figure out a
Mhm.
resource to ship internationally. Because like I said, I've had people in Europe and Pacific Islands and
Yeah.
Asia all reaching out to me, and even in Canada. And Canada's just right there. I mean,
I know.
it's pathetic not being able to just, if USPS did ground shipping into Canada, then I'd probably be able to afford it. But they don't. They only do air shipping into Canada, and so and they don't allow perfume. Uh, well, certain. I don't know. I'm still figuring
Yeah,
out the rules.
the restrictions to me are quite confusing as well. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
the amount of times that I've received a package with perfume in it with no documentation. I know it was shipped by air,
same.
no documentation on it saying it's flammable, and I know for a fact this is flammable because I accidentally sprayed it near an open flame.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yep. 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 Yep.
you
Same.
know,
Same. Same. But I don't ask
but
questions. I just
whatever.
take it
Yeah,
and move on.
yeah,
So I don't know if you guys have any other questions, but I have one last question. So for everyone else, if you have anything, go ahead and type them in the comment section or in the live chat. But I recently saw on one of your Instagram posts that you are planning on creating extrait versions of some of your fragrances.
yes,
So
yes.
what exactly, I guess, triggered you to do that? Or was that something that was always part of the plan? Or was it a
It
response
was something that was
to
kind
that?
of in the
Or,
back of my mind,
okay.
uh, and it was. So my initial launch with stuff was just to, I mean, one, I was talking to I was uh, messaging with Havenly Scents earlier, and he was actually surprised to find out that all of my perfumes are eau de toilette. He thought
Mhm.
they were all eau de parfum. Um, so I showed a little bit of restraint when I initially released my stuff because I knew that it was a bit more potent.
Hmm.
But at the same time, some people like the heavy hitters. And so I've kind of had that in the back of my head, and then also just thinking about uh, you know, for me in a temperate climate, I don't need something that is like syrup that's
Right.
gonna but there's people who, like, there's you notice how like fragrances made in the Middle East are like, they're heavy
Yeah.
because they're made to last in some temperatures I don't even want to imagine. I lived in Phoenix for a little bit, and I know that Saudi Arabia gets hotter, and a fragrance that's going to last there all day that's impressive.
Yeah.
Um, but anyways, yeah. So I just kind of I don't really know what exactly was the exact moment where I was like, I'm going to do this. Actually, no way. Uh,
Well, you
the
have been a
Bryce
customer.
Bryce number one. He's copping it.
Yeah.
Okay. But anyways, where was I going with this? Oh, when you did your first impressions, you made mention of some of them being a little more. I think you made mention of some of them being a little more fleeting or changing, or you know,
Right.
uh, and I just kind of was like, okay, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
That was the moment where I was like, yes, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Um,
I felt that way about eau de cologne. I thought, okay, it's eau de cologne, so maybe it's an eau de cologne concentration because it does feel, or it felt really light, and I feel like it got close to the skin really quickly. I
mhm,
adore the scent anyway. I think it
yeah,
smells
yeah.
fantastic. But for me, I do like stronger fragrances. So
Hmm.
if you end up making an EDP or an extrait of eau de cologne,
Yeah.
that one's gonna
I
belong
and
for
yeah, I'm
sure.
actually in the process. I started today. I made the first batch of Blacklisted 1 and 2 in I'm calling them Parfum.
Okay.
I've got the labels are on their way. But yeah, so I started on those, and over the next couple of days I'm going to make some more blends. I'm not entirely certain when it will all be available. I might do a staggered release of each one.
Mhm.
But with the eau de cologne, that's one of the terms that gets really
Gets
confusing,
misconstrued, yeah. I can
because cologne. Growing up, I thought that meant men's fragrance,
a lot of us did. I think all of us
but
did at
then
one.
but then there's also referring to something as being an eau de cologne in reference to the concentration.
Mhm.
The traditional term for eau de cologne is a set of notes, because the original eau de cologne was very citrusy and had orange blossom in it.
Right.
And it's also about more of the experience of being in the moment. That was one of the things with the original, the Marina, is that his name? It was made in like 1710
Wow.
in Cologne, but it was at the time, fragrances were they were heavy. They were meant to last a long time, because people didn't necessarily bathe all the time. That was the first one that was made to be like, just right now.
Yeah.
I want to smell good now, and you're
Mhm.
just living in the moment. And but so ultimately, a cologne is a reference to having those bright citrus notes and orange blossom. Uh, Not necessarily always orange blossom, but it tends to be in there. So what typically, like, I just refer to everything I make as a perfume, and people get confused by that. Like, I had coworkers at my old job, and when they found out, I would be like, "Oh yeah, I make perfume." Like, well, do you make cologne too? And when I finally made eau de cologne, I was like, well, yes, but not what you mean.
Right. Exactly.
um, what they meant was, do you make men's fragrances? Because you just said perfume, and that's for girls.
Right.
Um,
I mean, I can't blame them
yeah,
because I had the
yeah,
same, mindset
yeah,
before. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And then it's funny because I had another coworker who he was from Nepal, and he would refer to wearing perfume. One day he was wearing I just straight up asked him, "What perfume are you wearing?" And he answered me without batting an eye.
Yeah.
There's other coworkers that get I'm not wearing perfume. Are you trying to fight me? Uh, and but yeah, so yeah, cologne is one of those really just it's a loaded term. It has
Yeah.
a lot of meaning. But
Right.
with
Right.
my eau de cologne, it was because I was inspired by the original eau de cologne when I made it. But I added some heavier base note to make it last longer.
Mhm.
So
Okay. Yeah.
yeah.
I do have another question. I know I said that was my last question, but this just came up right now. So with your extraits or your parfum versions, should we expect them to be almost similar, like exactly the same as your current collection or current fragrances, or are they going to have some changes, maybe additional notes, or like are there going to be changes
Some
outside of
of
just
them are going yeah, some of them are going to be a little bit
Mhm.
different. And then also just the simple fact of the concentration difference that creates you'll experience different notes differently.
Okay.
But there's definitely let me see, I have to count. There's three that are going to be just a little bit different.
Okay.
Like Night Tide will be a little bit just very slightly reformulated, just because of the aldehydes in it
Mhm.
will just they'll become choking
Yeah. Okay.
if I don't
Change it up a bit.
bring them down a little bit.
Yeah.
Uh, it'll be more adding a little bit more to base notes to
Gotcha.
kind of balance that out. But yeah, that the classics will be slightly tweaked.
Okay.
But
Okay.
the blacklisted I'm keeping as is. That's going to be the exact same formula, just at 20% instead of those ones are all at 9% right now.
Gotcha. Oh,
So
so 9 to 20. Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's gonna be they're gonna be heavy, and that's also why I'm selling them as 10 milliliters, because they're gonna be that's gonna be like
That's it.
now put it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we should wrap it up now. We're
All
over
right.
20 minutes. Thank you so
Oh
much.
wow.
It was
Yeah.
great.
Thank you. This was
I know
fun.
time just flew by. And thank you for everyone who joined. I really appreciate it. Um,
Yeah, thank you.
yeah, I think we learned a lot about you and Âge de Querelle.
Yeah.
I keep
Yeah.
saying in my head, Purell, Curel. um, so as I said earlier,
I'm really happy that you said my last name perfectly
yeah. Well,
at the
I
start
had
of this.
practice.
Yeah,
Bylsma.
love
Yeah.
that. Love that. Almost nobody does that right. So,
Yeah, I try to always pronounce things properly. So yeah, like I said earlier, I'm gonna link all of Chad's details below, including the link to his website for the fragrances. Thank you all for being here. Yeah,
thank you
until
very much.
next time, we'll catch you guys later.
All
Bye.
right. Bye.